Hello and welcome to the number one sales scorecard interview process, call it what you will. This is the scorecard for interviewing salespeople. If you need go-to-market people in your organization, you are a startup or a scale-up, you might find this very useful. What you've got to think about when creating the scorecard is, like we've talked about in previous videos, what problem you're trying to solve. And with go-to-market hires, it's really important that these people understand your product and how to sell it, more importantly. So the first thing you're going to need now is your pen. Write down on the piece of paper that you have next to you the departments that this person has sold to. You need to understand, first of all, your customer persona. Who buys your tech? And what department in that industry actually signs on the dotted line and has responsibility for budgets. So you might be selling a developer tool that is sold into SRE teams or platform engineering teams. You're going to need to understand that the person that you're interviewing has the connections, has the understanding, the know-how of how to access those departments. And more importantly, they have relevant contacts there. So number one, department sold to. This needs to be recent. So technology changes very quickly and people change very quickly in technology. So what you want to look for here is the departments that they've sold to. It can be head of SRE, head of platforms, CTO. You want every layer that this person has involved with. And then you really want to emphasize where they're doing business, where they're shaking hands to close deals. You've got to make sure that this person coming into the business knows the sales processes of customers that you're trying to target, what their procurement process looks like. And they're only going to know that having sold into similar departments or the same departments that you're going to be selling into. So you've got to make sure that they're relevant. The last 12 months is usually a good gauge. Can you evidence to me some deals that you've done in these departments in the last 12 months? And if they're willing to share, if they can share names, and if they can share the organization in which they've sold, get them to talk to you a bit about their sales process and really bring it to life. Right? How did you get into that customer? Did you break down the door yourself? How did you do that? Did you go the cold sales approach? Did you go the soft touch approach? Get them to bring that to life for you. So that's a really important one. The second is, again, they've closed these deals and they've manufactured them themselves. What you want to know is here, are you interviewing somebody that's reliant on a lead generation function? Do they need SDRs? Do they need BDRs? Or are they self-sufficient at generating their own business? So of those questions and answers that you've had for number one, now start to think about how that happened. Talk to me about how you won that deal. Talk me through the whole process from start to finish. How did you identify the lead? How did you know that customer was potentially buying? And then more importantly, how did you get through the door? What happened? Talk me through it. Because in a startup and in a scale-up, you really want the Marines. You want the people that are going into the dinghy to land on the beach. You know that there's an objective and that it's going to be hard work, but you've got to really cross some difficult territory to make it happen. So you want to now be looking at these people explaining their sales process to you. Where do they get the leads from? How do they identify it? Do they need an SDR? Have all of their leads come from an SDR? And then you can start to get a bit of a flavor for, right, 80 or 90% of this person's business that they've generated, their deals done, has been self-gen. Or firstly, 80, 90% has come from a marketing function or an SDR function. And if you have that, great. Obviously they're proving to you that they work well with that function. But if you don't have that, and this person has been 80% reliant on SDR and a marketing function, they're going to struggle, So make sure you're assessing those points, and getting some real life examples and recent scenarios that they can evidence to you. And another important one here is going to be their tenure in role. Sales people, depending on what industries that they sell to, can sometimes have 9, 12, or even 18 months sales processes. So you want to really be understanding why they've perhaps moved on for the last 3-4 roles, whatever your comfort levels are, really. That's for you to decide. Some people are comfortable with 3-year tenures per role, some 4, some 5. It's really at your discretion. But you want to get some narrative as to why people have moved on from roles, so you can get an understanding for, is this candidate a bit mercenary? Do they just, go after a better deal, a better monetary deal, rather than looking at bigger picture? Or, you can start to see a pattern. So you've got to understand the tenure aspect of why salespeople are moving on. Next is where they've had experience in companies similar to your organization. You might be in, stealth mode, round A. You might be very much focused on the growth startup phase or the scale up phase, but really make sure you understand what phase that you are at, so you can address like for like and you can compare apples for apples. There are larger organizations which shouldn't be discounted straight away. A lot of people will discount a resume and an applicant because they've worked at a big company. But think about how they got into that big company. Did they get there through acquisition, merger? Was there a market event which meant that they've now ended up in a big company? Or in that big company, there are a lot of really cool startup cultured teams. To give you a particular example, VMware is a great example. Tanzu by VMware is a very startup cultured Kubernetes provider. And the people in that organization are very, very capable at transitioning into startups. So I would never discount those if I was to go and hire for a Kubernetes startup. So you've got to think about where their startup experience and their scale experience marries up to what you're trying to achieve. Because what you don't want to do is you don't want to hire somebody to put in the jungle if they were raised in the zoo, as the saying goes. So push them on their startup experience. Okay, tell me at what stage you got into the organization, what infrastructure you had around you at the time that geared you up for success. What, if you could go back, what tools would you have liked to have access to and why? Start to really get an understanding for how resourceful this person you're interviewing is. Because there's always two things you're looking for: resources and resourcefulness. What resources did they have availability of day by day? And how resourceful were they willing to be for tools that they didn't have? And then you can get a bit of a flavour for somebody that they may need a little bit more hand-holding from you than perhaps you have time for. It's a really interesting one when you start asking these kinds of questions. What resources did you have available to you? What activities, what daily things did you do that were above and beyond? What did you do differently than somebody in your team or in the competition that you feel won you deals? Resourcefulness. These are really great things to push on to. Results is obviously important for salespeople. Salespeople are typically coin operated, so they should really know their metrics. Talk to me about your sales stats, your last 3 years targets, your last 4 years targets. Again, it's your discretion here how far back you go. But a good salesperson will always remember their metrics. Okay, my last year's target was $5 million and I achieved 6.5. And as a result, I earned X in commission. They should know that. Bam, 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 bam. So you want to push them on that. Okay, what was your target? What did you achieve? And what commission did you earn as a result? These are great things to know, because you'll know straight away if someone's bullshitting you or not. And you want to go a little bit deeper on that. So of those sales numbers, what percentage was new business? What percentage was new logos? So, okay, you had a $5 million target. What revenue number of that, or what percentage, break it down however you will, was brand new business that you've gone and acquired, that you've gone and won, that you've kicked down the door and you've then, signed. You can then get a flavour for how that person's portfolio has grown, adapted, changed over the course of 3 or 4 years, however long they've been in their organisation. Year one, typically you would think would be 100% new business. Year two might dilute slowly. And then into year three, where it potentially might dilute even more, depending on that person's organisation's growth. So those are great questions that you can ask. And then of course you can always keep going, but I think if you build a matrix around those questions for a sales individual, you're going to be understanding what the culture of that salesperson is, how successful they are, how committed they are to their own success, how they remember their metrics, and what markets they are operating in, what geographies they are operating in. So create this scorecard. You can be as creative with it as you want, but these are just the hard facts and figures that you can get. The actual soft skills, the cultural element of it is a different conversation altogether. And again, like we've touched on in previous videos, you can use ChatGPT here to pull off some more behavioral based questions based on your culture of the organization. Every culture is different in each organization. Every startup is different. What's important to you? Think about the key 5 things that makes people successful in your business, or the people that have left the business. Why did they leave? What cultural alignment did they not share with other colleagues? And then build a scorecard question around that. Resilience might be one that's important to you. Problem solving might be another. Evidencing resourcefulness, there's a million ways you can do that, but you want something that's focused on the facts and figures, which we've just touched, the cultural element and the soft skills. Use ChatGPT. It's a great tool. So if you want any more help on this, on how to build a sales interview process, please drop a little thumbs up in the comments below. Please like the video, give it some reach for us. We're really trying to help educate people in the startup community to make less poor hires and really get this right first time. So again, I'm Will from Rekall. We do this day in, day out. We've helped some organizations hire some fantastic salespeople from seeded round A to round B in many different industries. And this is the framework that we stick to. So we know it works. So good luck to you. Take care. Goodbye.